I'm going to give you an insight into how the federal budget is affecting your life. I want it to add some value to you, save you some cash, and help you if you've got a business.
Hi, this is Phoebe Blamey and welcome to the Happy Money Journey podcast for today. I'm really excited to have you here. I have spent most of my life working in financial services. I'm a qualified financial planner and I have my own mortgage broking business since 2006. I know that as a busy woman, it's really hard to get your life into some sort of shape. And so I'm here to help you on your own happy money journey.
And welcome to the Happy Money Journey podcast. I am your host, Phoebe Blamey, and today I am going to take the boring out of budget. No, not really. I'm not going to be able to do that at all. I'm going to give you an insight into how the federal budget is affecting your life. I want it to add some value to you, save you some cash, and help you if you've got a business. So over the last few months, we have been talking in the news, or hearing in the news, all about the cost of living, recession, lives claimed through domestic violence, high interest rates. There's a whole lot of tension in our society at the moment. And because of that, and because we know that there's a cash flow squeeze, we know that rents are going up. We know that mortgage hardship applications are on the up. In fact, as a nation, we're really struggling, right? With money, with our businesses, with our relationships. And I don't know about you, but look, I don't honestly expect the government is going to come in and solve all those issues with a budget. If you're anything like me, it seems like a lot of hoo-ha and not enough of the actual real stuff. I mean, it'd be nice to get a bit of relief as a business owner. It would be amazing if we could legislate to reduce the amount of women that are dying. It would be incredible as an employer if we could get a bit more support, particularly when we're small businesses. And I know a lot of you out there are solopreneurs. So, yeah, thinking from all that perspective, it would be nice. But let's just talk about what we've got. So the stage 3 tax cuts. Now, these are a legacy of the previous guys. And they have remained, which I really like. And from July the 1st, this might be bringing you a little bit of extra money in your day-to-day wages. It might be bringing you a little bit of relief, particularly if you're working, but also as a self-employed person if you're paying yourself wages. So your marginal tax rate reducing from, say, 37% or the 32.5% marginal tax rate to the flatter rate of 30% for anyone that's earning between $45,000 and $200,000. So a bit of relief there, but also a bit less confusing because our tax system is all about, and if you go onto the ATO website, you'll see what I mean, sort of up to here for the first X amount. So between $18,000 and $45,000, it's the marginal tax rate. So the amount you pay on every bit above $18,000 is 19%. And then it goes to 30%. And it all kind of makes sense with how much you're earning and how much tax you should be paying. So the more you earn, the more tax you pay. All of the information is on the ATO website. So follow to there, but really basically what it means is if you're on $45,000, you're going to have an extra $16.50. And if you're on $200,000, you're going to have an extra $174 in a week. So fantastic stuff, good stuff, gives us a bit of tax relief, brings us in line with a lot of other countries that have lower income tax, particularly when they combine lower income tax with higher, their equivalent of GST and state taxes. Next thing, the Energy Bill Relief Fund. This is a rebate of $300 for eligible households. So your household isn't necessarily eligible if you've got shared electricity or if you're in staying in particular types of accommodation. But if you're, just house, flat, whatever, paying your own electricity bills and don't have that shared between multiple households, then you're eligible for $300 relief in your electricity bill. In fact, in a lot of states, there is a secondary rebate as well. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this. There's a what I would like to call a government plot to make things as complicated as possible. You probably have to opt in for this. You probably have to opt in for the ones that are available in your state concessions as well. Signing up is always something that people are less likely to do than opt out of something. But make sure you sign in. There's been lots of research about that, by the way. Make sure you sign in. Make sure you do something about this. Do it before you stop listening to this podcast. In fact, stop the podcast now and do it, because seriously, $300, it's a saving of about $75 per bill. Who doesn't want to save a little bit of money where you can? So that's the energy. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the 7.1% indexation of the HECS debt. Had a huge impact on people. There's been a huge outcry about it. We weren't expecting to pay any interest on our HECS debt, and indexation really is quite similar to paying interest. So, as a result of this big outcry, $3 billion has been wiped from student debt. And the reason for that is that the 7.1% indexation, they've now was in line with the consumer price index. So this tracks inflation. Now an amendment's going to be made to change it to the lower of the wage price index, or CPI. Now, WPI measures changes in the price of labour, so that will go up and down. They're going to take the lower of the two. Now, further to this outrage, what this means for you if you have a help debt is that the increase that happened last year has now been reduced from 7.1 to 3.2. This means that existing help debts will be adjusted, but it also apparently means if you paid out the debts, then that backdated money will still come back to you. Now, I really appreciate this because there were a whole heap of people in my mortgage broking business that I seriously advised to pay off their HECS debt so that they could get a home loan. Now, the actual amount of the HECS debt doesn't cause your repayments on HECS to increase or decrease. It just causes your debt to increase, which means it's going to take longer to pay off, which means that you're going to hold it for longer, which means that you're going to have more indexation, more creep. The thing that relates to your repayments for your HECS debt is what you earn. Now, you start paying your debt this year if you earn over $51,550. Next year, that dial moves to $54,435. And you pay a percentage of your gross income towards your debt. And that is irrelevant of the balance of the debt. So the more you earn, the more you pay. At that $51,550, you pay 1%. And once you're earning $151,200, you're paying 10% of your gross income. So that's nearly $300 a week. And this has a huge impact on your cash flow, right? And because it's compulsory and it's compulsory repayment, the only way you can stop that is to keep an eye on those debts and really start to pay. When you start earning the big bucks, when you start getting into that 5, 6, 7, 8% of your gross income, so not your income after tax, your income before tax, then keep an eye on those debts and see if you can accelerate those repayments. We were in the Financial Review actually really recently talking about just this, talking about how so many people are really impacted cash flow wise by having a student debt. So once you get into those larger income brackets, see what you can do about paying that off. Now, speaking of students, 30.2 million over 5 years in partnerships with Australian communities, the Northern Territory Government, remote training access, with a big focus to empower First Nations people to access education and employment opportunities. Got to say good for that. There's a new program with Yeah, I said that right. 76 million invested to help First Nation people transition from prison to the workforce. Again, on the surface, and because of the conversation about partnership with communities, I'm finding this a little bit reassuring if it actually works to close the gap. I think most of us understand that a greater focus on economic and actual empowerment, health and education will only work if it's collaborative with communities. I do want to talk a little bit more about general housing, health and domestic violence relief now. So when huge numbers, and they're huge numbers, like 925.2 million over 5 years in a leaving violence program, I want much more understanding of what that's going to actually bring to people and who it's going to bring it to. It's a 12-week program that's being proposed, and it'd be great to know how it's going to help and who it's going to help. I think the recent tragedies, particularly for us in Ballarat, shone a light on women in regional centres, and I'm so grateful, so very grateful that we're doing something and that these programs are being initiated. But are we in the right place? Are we doing the right thing? Is it helping? Because I know so many women in that sector and they work so hard. They put their hearts and their souls into what they're doing. And I get the overall impression from them that budgets and what budgets promise are more like shifting deck chairs on the Titanic, or basically reallocating the same funding within the sector. So it's great to see the huge figures bandied about. The second thing to note is that this government particularly loves a committee, loves a referendum, loves a vote, loves to put another layer between us and any outcome. And it's interesting to me that government put in minimum sentencing for one punch after 2 men were killed. We've had 27 women killed in the last, we're now in May, 5 months. And I'm seeing no minimum, no protection, people leaving jail on probation and returning to commit worse offences. And this is the reason that so many of us are dying. So serious moves to be made, serious investment into a problem that seems to be getting worse and not better. There are 1 in 6 Australian women who experience domestic violence. It means it touches all of us. It touches our society. Australia ranks 8th in the world for violence against women. So let's think about that. Is this something that's impacted you? We've got a whole lot of resources that are going to be in the show notes. But what I really wanted to point out, because we're talking about the budget now, it'd be awesome if this government does commit to more than just words, and actually some of these programs start making a difference. I think they're starting at the wrong end of the stick still, and it would be really great to see some programs for men around violence, around behaviour, around what needs to be changed. But let's see how it goes. I was very impressed to see that rental assistance for Centrelink recipients was going to increase by 10% until I read the fine print, and it's going to increase by 10% over 5 years. Now, rents have increased by 8.6% since in the 12 months since up to March of this year. So we're barely keeping the 10% is going to be barely keeping up the increase in rent assistance. Now, this makes a difference because this makes a difference to a lot of people who are older, who haven't purchased homes when they're younger, who are now out of the housing market and are going to be renting for the rest of their lives. And you can almost picture a downward trajectory of housing opportunities, particularly when rents are going up so high and there's so little help for people in that situation. So, you know, we've got record low unemployment. There's been no increase to job seeker to balance out some of the costs of living expenses and stresses. And I fear from that we're going to have a greater homelessness problem, and a particularly greater homelessness problem in the unseen homelessness, of which women are such a large number, particularly women over 50 and 60 who have retired. And what I mean by that is not necessarily out on the streets, maybe sleeping in their cars, but certainly couch surfing between friends and house sitting and doing things that are, potentially not going to give them a very stable old age, which I really do think, and particularly as I'm getting older, but I really do think that that's a part of our community that we owe such a lot of respect to. On the plus, there are good things. And I was really, really happy to see this one, because this one has been a big, I've been loud and proud about this for a really long time. Increasing parental leave to include superannuation being paid on the government parental leave. Now, this is great because we do have gaps in our super from women to men at retirement, and part of it could actually be attributed to the time that we take off to have children. It could be attributed to those 18 weeks of our lives and so much less about. So on a $70,000 wage, this should put an additional $2,907.70 into your super. And these are good things to understand while you're planning for your maternity leave. Also, your partner can add to your super. There's a whole lot of other things that can be done around your super, your maternity leave, what your entitlements are. And so I very much stress this is a great thing, and let's check this out. Now, let's talk for a minute about businesses. Businesses are entitled to a $325 energy bill relief program. So speaking of energy, there will be a lot of money being put into incentivizing clean energy programs, critical minerals, huge opportunities for training and apprentices in clean energy occupations. It's called Future Made in Australia, and it's a plan to make Australia a renewable energy powerhouse toward net zero emissions and make a big, big impact in the global economy. So this actually includes specific measures to get women, to get First Nations people into these professions and into this. So very much if you're in that clean energy, mining, critical minerals arena with your business, check out what sort of things you can do there. Another one is if you know a veteran, and this is a completely separate program, nothing to do with Future Made in Australia. If you know a veteran, or if you are a veteran, some incentives towards starting your own business. There's also innovation grants that are becoming available to help build manufacturing and really a lot of innovation in Australia, and they have to be actually innovative. So they're not just improving some existing tech. It has to be new. It has to be something that's amazing. So if your business is mining or connected to it, forestry, fisheries, agriculture, transport, medical science, renewables, low emission tech, AI, IT, communications tech, robotic, biotech, think like Mr. Yum's Kim Tao or Canva's Melanie Perkins, women like that have innovated, like really innovated. And if you've had an idea, if you've got something buzzing in the back of your brain and you need a bit of funding, they've got a seed funding level, and then they've got a bigger funding level. There's also a bit of money being put into small business mental health and cyber security. So two big issues if you're a business owner, right? New access Beyond Blue guided mental health program for small business owners. No referral from your GP is required, and the budget's given it a great big amount of support. So we know the stresses of being a small business owner, that you're torn all over the place, that, you can spend your whole day putting out fires, that how it impacts your relationships, your home life, your work life. So it's good to know that there's an actual service out there that can give you a bit of support. And regarding cyber security, and I know that if you're in small business where you are collecting any kind of data, it's probably top of mind for you, because it would be ruinous to your business if something happened. So I'm going to provide links to what they're doing with cybersecurity. It's predominantly education programs. And I feel really compelled to investigate these before I get a little bit more information. But there's a lot of business owners out there who would benefit, I'm sure, from knowing a little bit about cybersecurity. Finally, for businesses, the instant asset write-off will continue. Yay! I know this one. A lot of you might not have been taking advantage of it, but you can write off an eligible asset that's purchased for less than $20,000 immediately rather than depreciating over time, which can make a big difference for your actual tax at the end of the year. So, really quick recap of things to look out for now. If you earn between $45,000 and $200,000, your tax is going to drop to 30% on the 1st of July. People can get an energy rebate if you're at home for up to $300, you can get an energy rebate of $300 for your home, but $325 for your business. So if you're a small business owner, you might be saving $625 if you've got, I'm presuming you've got to have a whole lot of eligibility criteria. There are also state-based rebates, so look at those. If you pay a HECS or help deck, indexation is going to be adjusted back from 2023. The future will consider WPI to CPI, but this will make no difference to the amount taken out of your pay, as that debt is based on how much money you earn. Now, much shouting about money to remote communities, women fleeing violence, and improving education and health for women. Even if it's not going to stop things overnight, it's a response. So I think we need to be celebrating that and finding out more, particularly if you've had endometriosis, if you've suffered from miscarriage. There's a whole lot of more things going into health, which I didn't go into very much in the podcast, but just wanted to mention now as we're wrapping everything up. Look into your maternity leave because you're going to get a little extra from super now, and much funding is going into sustainability, energy, and innovation. So if your business can benefit from that, don't be shy. These people that have done these amazing things have had to go out and get funding. You know how hard it is for women to get funding. You know how hard it is for small businesses to get funding. So check out what the government's got to offer and whether that can suit your small and medium-sized enterprise. So, to round it all out, that is it. We're in the right direction. We're taking some time. We're paying attention to some things that matter in our budget. And this is important. Now, note that we are coming into an election year. So I think there's going to be an election by May next year. So we've got 12 months. So note that the next 12 months will be political absolute catastrophe about bringing some of these things together and making promises and looking out for who we are and what actually matters to us as a society. So make your voice heard where you can. It has been amazing going through this budget with you. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And I really look forward to seeing you with a way more funsy topic next week. But thank you for your time and attention, and have a great week. And most of all, enjoy your journey. I'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. My name is Hannah, and I am the producer of this podcast, along with Joshua Dean Graham. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we live and work, and pay our respects to the ancestors and elders, past, present, and emerging. We are grateful and honoured to live on this land and pay homage to the traditions of storytelling, communities, and the connection to land. Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Disclaimer. Just a reminder that the advice that's contained in this podcast is general in nature. It doesn't take into account your individual needs and circumstances, and we recommend considering the appropriateness of any advice to your individual circumstances and needs. We always recommend seeking the advice of an expert before making any financial decisions.